Now it's prepping.
No, we're live right now.
No, we're live, man.
We're live right now.
It's like we've got the delay.
Yo, guys, make sure you do the. Is this thing on?
I'm good.
Yes, it's live.
Here
We
we go.
live in the building.
Hey.
What's up?
Let's wait for
Hey.
people to
Live
come
and
and join
direct.
us. Wait for people to come and join us. Once the first person. Oh, we have 3 people joining us now. There we go.
Right.
Let's go. Oh man, I don't know about you guys, but there's just like a nervous energy when you, like, it's one thing to like record on our own and then like put it up later on. It's another thing when you're like, it's happening right now in the moment. I don't know. It's crazy.
Love it.
Oh, ooh.
Ooh, we at 10.
Wow. I never freeze.
No,
do it.
Are we starting? Are we not live?
No, we're live. We're live.
We're live.
We're live right now. We're live.
Everybody's seeing us right now.
You know what it is? It's like if this was youth on Friday night, you're kind of like you're waiting for people in, and your youth group with the pastor
So
going
like the first song of the throwaway song.
Listen, bro, if they're late, they're late. We start
That's true.
going.
If they're late, they're late.
Yeah.
Welcome,
basically.
ladies and gentlemen, to another edition live of the House of Common show. We are so glad that you have chosen to use your precious time to spend with us. For the next 60, 70 minutes or so, we are going to walk through multiple things, multiple topics with you, the viewer, in mind. We want to make sure that you feel like you are a part of this show. So make sure if you're watching the show right now on YouTube that you are using the chat. And maybe you're not watching this live, maybe you're listening to this on podcast. You can do a couple of things. One, you can email us with comments afterwards at thehouseofcommon@gmail.com. Make sure to send any comments, any ideas, and who knows, maybe we might read your email, read a couple of lines or sentences or paragraphs from your email on our following show. You can also, hit us up in the House of Common DM with any comments. But when you see videos or pictures, let us know what you're thinking. Follow, subscribe, all those things. We are on all social media platforms: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, the ones that matter. And we're also on all podcast platforms. You can follow, you can do all of those sort of things. But we are so glad that you're here with us. Gentlemen, what a week it has been. Look at us. We all have our Instagram handles in our... O'Shea has his at. O'Shea has his at. There we go.
O'Shea.
So you can follow
Another
O'Shea at. That's pretty well it. Just follow his life. That's what it is.
You follow me at life, exactly.
Hey, let's go. So
Live group.
before we go into the breakdown of our show, we're going to go through what has happened over the last 7 days since the last time we hung out on live with you. So here are a couple things for you. First off, we had Jake Paul and Ben Askren Triller fight that ended in 15 seconds, gentlemen?
That was a
About a
dive.
minute and a half.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
About a minute and a half. Like,
A minute and 58 seconds.
That was a dive.
so we're thinking it's a dive. He said it's not a dive.
Nah, it's not a
I
dive.
wasn't-
No,
listen,
dive.
I-
Wasn't a dive.
Every fighter
Here-
has pride. They
Here's
couldn't
the
be a
thing.
dive.
No,
Nah,
man.
That man dove.
Yeah, a
Jake
lot
Paul
of
needs to
I
start
think
fighting real boxers now. Forget this nonsense about fighting this Ben Askren and Nate Robinson. He needs to fight real, actual boxers.
No, you
Ben
got to
Askren-
justify why you think it's a dive, Stefan. You can't go off.
Pardon?
I can easily justify it. There's a
Oh, shit.
there's a
Oh, shit.
video. There's a video of this MMA fighter catching elbows to the face. Okay, not padded gloves, bone elbows to the face. Okay,
But that's what makes you have a glass jaw if you have too many of those.
No.
But the man was taking them
No.
like he was sick, like he was a crack addict, like he couldn't
Okay.
feel nothing, bro.
Nah, man.
He was
like a
aching
crack
them.
addict.
And guess what? The part where I'm like he dove is not the fact that he took them. It's the fact that he still ended up winning that fight. There's no
Sure.
way in a minute and 58 seconds that you got faked out by Jake Paul with a fake left and a right to your nose, and you flew on the canvas like you were Nate Robinson, bro.
Okay.
There's no
All
way.
right. Okay. I appreciate
Okay.
that breakdown. I appreciate that breakdown. But I think, man,
No, you don't. That's sarcasm. I know it is.
well, like, anyway, it's there. But here's the deal, man. Ben Askren is not a striker for one, and the second
UFC
thing,
fighter.
But he's a
Grappler.
UFC fighter.
He's a wrestler and a grappler, right? So I'm talking about in UFC, he's not known for striking. But the second thing about it is Ben Askren did not treat that fight seriously, and that is why he lost.
Right.
It wasn't that it's not, you know what I mean. It wasn't that he wasn't, he dove or anything like that. He just didn't think that Jake Paul can. And Jake Paul he's not the best boxer in the world, but he has legitimate boxing skill. He's been training hard and against pros. I'm talking about, you look at the stuff that he's been doing, this man has immersed himself into the sport. He's not going down to your local LA Fitness and hitting the bag there or whatever.
But that's why he needs to fight
himself.
real boxers now. He doesn't need to be fighting these exhibitions with
I
these
agree with
guys.
you. I agree with on that, but I just don't think it was a dive.
Yeah, I don't
All right.
know. When Ben got up, you saw the ref stop the fight so quickly,
But yeah.
and that it was.
He said that he was stammering. He couldn't understand. He was speaking gibberish.
Oh, when you
He was
watch that,
speaking in
he was-
tongues. Gasoleo.
Remember when Ronda Rousey got rocked?
Oh,
All right. Once we start talking about tongues, we're going to keep on going through everything else is going on. Also, this week, we had a story about Usher Bucks. If you know
boy.
this a little bit. So, Usher is doing a residency in Las Vegas whenever it is that Las Vegas opens itself up. But in the meantime, he has gone to certain establishments. And in those establishments, he has been throwing money. The money, however, has had his face on it. People pick up said money thinking that they are making bank, and instead they are taking home Usher bucks. Just gonna let that breathe for a couple of seconds, gentlemen. Yeah.
I'm not
Also-
touching this one.
Next.
Also, what else happened? It didn't happen this week. It happened a couple weeks ago, but it was written down, so I'm going to read it. Paul Pierce gave up his life because of Instagram. Paul Pierce gave up his life for 300 followers on a live.
My God,
He gave up his job on ESPN and NBA on ESPN and ABC for 300 followers on Instagram.
And this is why I don't have Instagram.
That's why O'Shea's at. I mean, I'm not saying that you're going to be like Paul Pierce. I'm not saying that. But that's whatever. Also,
We don't believe in trap houses.
Hey, know thyself. Know thyself.
know thyself. Also, in sad news, last week we had a conversation about DMX, one of the greatest to ever do it. I'm not sure if this person is in that tier of greatness, but he was a hip hop icon, no less. Black Rob from Bad Boy Records, Black Rob of 24 Hours to Live, Black Rob of the song Whoa, Black Rob of what's that song with J Depp? Let's Get It. He passed away at the age of 51, different complications in his life. So shout outs to him. And then lastly, the thing that happened this week that's been kind of falling apart is this Super League. The Super League.
It's such a great idea.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
So,
but it's gonna
so
blow
Cal, this
everything
is a
up.
great idea. Can you explain for our viewing audience what the Super League is before we get into the main crux of the show?
It's all the best teams that people want to watch with the players that people want to watch saying, we're not going to play in a regular league. We're going to make our own. And
Where they
and make
get all the
money
money.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
but
where they
when was
get-
the last time
they
any of
don't
those
have to
teams won a
share
championship.
with team that nobody cares about. Like nobody's trying to watch Wolves, as awesome as their jerseys are.
Yo,
No, but it's true-
Wolverhampton
it's
is
true, though.
nice.
Yeah, their jerseys are sick, but nobody's watching them.
So basically, if you're a team like Everton, if you're a team like Wolves, if you're not one of the upper echelon teams in the English Premier League or Series A or whatever else, you're not making any more money because they all sort of funnel their money in together. And it's been a whole, like, England is pretty well burning, not because of COVID, but because of 6 soccer teams.
Well, the amount of money I play,
And the amount of money,
is
yes,
so
yes.
much money, right? Like it's so much money
Billions
at
of
play,
dollars.
and the establishment is kind of saying the establishment's kind of like been in charge of it, right? Like these old heads that have been running these different leagues and different championship tournaments type stuff. So when you look at this new Super League, the Super League is basically like democratizing soccer and saying, listen, if you guys want to play in this league, we're going to like decentralize it and whatever all the hype words are nowadays, and do that to it. And then that's what they're trying to do. Like, yo, forget XYZ, you can do this right here, right now. And the cut of the revenue is going to be split solely with us, the teams, not with the institutions or the organizers of the events.
And the thing that makes it the most most enticing is the split of the money is more than if you won the Champions League.
Yeah,
so
it's
it's
so
like
much
that's
money.
just for showing up.
So that's pretty well what's gone on this week. That's our rundown. But recognizing that today has been a tough day, and literally since Friday afternoon to today at 5 p.m., it's been a crazy 72 hours. I'm going to hand it over to Stefan, who's going to be leading us through. I'm talking like I'm about to do Bible study. Oh my goodness, who's going to be running the next two segments for us. First one, we're going to be talking about COVID response in the province of Ontario and our government, and then the second one, we're going to take time to reflect on what has happened since before we recorded today with the verdict on the Derek Chauvin case. So if you have comments, you have thoughts, get ready to put them in the chat. Stefan, I hand it over to you.
Thanks, family. Well, guys, Friday afternoon, I don't know where you were when the announcement came down that the province was going to go back into another lockdown. But this time, that was a couple weeks ago. This time, I call this lockdown 3.0, and then this past Friday was the 0.1, where the government decided they were going to do
like Apple updates.
Yeah, right. Like,
Sure.
because it's pretty much like an Apple update. They release something and then like, we forgot to do this, or we should do this. I want to know, because really, I think the issue with the latest addition to what the government was trying to do was one, closing off the parks and stuff like that, which they reversed later. And then the bigger thing was allowing the police to stop people and ask them for ID or ask them where they're going and why they're out. And I don't know, you know what? Let me not get there yet. I got a lot to say about this government, but I don't want to talk about political stuff right away. What were your thoughts on that initial emergency, this rule where the police, you're out and about, whatever, you're going to the store and the police could just stop you and be like, hey, why are you out?
I think it just highlights the gross disconnect between the people who are in charge making the decisions and the people who actually live the day-to-day lives. I forget if this was on a audio thing in our group chat or if Tim said this on a live recording, where he's like, the amount of half measures that have been happening is basically now he's trying to make everybody happy. And when you try to make everybody happy, you actually serve nobody. And that's why our good friend Dougie Ford is getting the fire right now on all sides of it, right? Like, nobody likes this man because you chose mediocrity and ignorance, trying to do very simple things poorly instead of trying to do sophisticated things better. So this is where, I don't know how, especially if you understand the history of carding in the city of Toronto, like just 4 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was like, do you not remember all that stuff that happened when Saunders just came on the force and all that kind of stuff? That's where it's like, yo, what are you actually doing? And I think I said this to a few people in my office space. I was like, yo, unless Doug is going to come on the television and tell us we have more vaccines, I really don't need to see him or talk to him, because the issue is we don't have the vaccines. People want vaccines. Apparently, they announced that the hotspots are going to have access to X, Y, and Z, and the municipalities don't even know the information that the provincial governments were talking about, right. And they weren't able to execute in the way that they wanted to execute. So I'm just like, unless you're talking about people who want to get vaccines, because at this point in the situation that we're in, if the only thing I wanted to hear about is vaccines, because you can't lock us down anymore. If you want to go listen to our previous episode about where Andrew and I argue about wearing masks, you can double up on masks. Like, it's not going to do anything. So at this point, what are we going to do? So just give us the vaccines so we can go on about our day, so we can just live our lives.
Yeah, I hear that.
Yeah, man. I think, what's crazy is you don't hear big box corporations and stores complaining. And I think that's the thing, is that Ontario, I think we feel as though our government has not had the people's interests at heart. And that's probably one of the biggest things, where we look like, you take small business owners, for example, I was watching something the other day where a small business owner had taken over $100,000 in debt over the course of COVID between the relapse and the going back and opening and closing and all these kinds of things. And it just feels like the government, it just feels like Doug Ford's government has not actually had the people's interest at heart. And but the big box stores and stuff, I don't want to go into like any kind of conspiracies or anything like that. I'm not a fan of conspiracies or whatnot, but
no, we want all the conspiracies.
No, like I don't
sources,
know.
man. I got sources.
Oh, you guys can source
doing your research.
Fact check.
But it's
Fact
just
check, don't worry.
you can check the facts. But what I'm saying though is it just seems as though like the only people who he has interest at heart are large corporations. That's just how it looks, to the public. And so I think this is where we're at now, and this is why there's so much fire and so much hatred and stuff. And you mentioned that whole carding thing, and it goes along with it.
Yeah, it just seems that there's this massive desperation. Obviously, we can't seem to get under it. We aren't really doing well with the measures that are put in place. And then I think it just reminded me of like being a kid where, my dad would be like, yo, if you don't finish eating your food by the time the big hand gets to the 6, you're going to bed. And it's an empty threat. Like, you don't really care that your kid finishes his food by 6:30. But if he doesn't, then you have this situation where you're like, do I just play the fool and not allow my kids to believe that what I say I mean, or do I punish them for something foolish? And I think Dougie tried to do, Mr. Doug Ford tried to do something like that, a power move. I'm going to say this, I'm going to throw it out there. It's going to get people to really believe that I'm being serious. And it backfired, man. Like, I don't know. We're super peaceable. We're Canadian. We're passive, but that one didn't fly. And I think it's because there's the history of the carding, how negative that has been on so many communities for people that look like us. It was an empty threat, and it was kind of funny to see the police Twitter accounts just being like, whoa, we're not doing that. And like, yes, you are. You do it every day anyway, right? Like, and then, just the politicians being like, hey, this was like one of the worst days we've ever had when it comes to PR stuff. And like, you guys need to go. It's time.
Listen, I'm gonna go a little bit against the grain.
Oh, wow. Shocking.
I'm not
Oh my
surprised,
goodness,
Keith.
you are? What?
Oh, Calvin said
Oh
something.
my
And then
goodness,
Andrew's
Calvin
like,
says
nah.
something and then Andrew's gonna go against the grain?
Yes,
Not
this is
against
what
what
we're here
Calvin
for.
was saying. Not what Calvin was saying. I'm just
Why do you
thinking-
hate me? Why do you hate me, man?
No, just in terms of, I don't think any government, I think, would get this wrong. And I know we want to blame Ford for vaccines, but it's the Liberal government that's in power ahead that gets us the vaccines to then distribute to the provincial governments. So they can't do anything if the Liberals haven't done what they are able to do. And I'm not talking about literal, I'm talking about Trudeau. If he hasn't been able to do what he is supposed to do.
Whoa.
Oh,
But they
hold on.
have
Can I please jump
vaccines.
in?
The
Can I please
rollout
jump
is
in?
the province.
Hold on. No. Hold on.
Can I please?
Let me talk first. In terms of everything
Said
being
that
Hoodie
Yes.
Andrews with all the
Yeah,
energy
there we go.
tonight.
Yo,
In
he
terms
said
of-
that with his chest.
in
Yeah,
terms of
you got Hoodie
everything,
Andrew in the building.
Let the man,
There we
allow
go.
the man,
Bam.
allow the
Bam.
man, allow the man.
in terms of everything being confusing, you knew it was going to be confusing as soon as last week happened when they said they're not going to cancel schools on Saturday. Then they canceled schools Sunday.
Right.
And you knew that pure confusion was going to take place. It was going to break out. It was going to go crazy. And the other thing I want to remind you is you got to remember this thing about the cops being able to pull people over and stuff. He said that in the first lockdown. So it wasn't, all of a sudden now it's this big crazy thing when he said it in the first lockdown that he was going to do that and then he backtracked.
Well,
so we knew that as soon as he said that
the thing was they were
going to say.
The thing was he was going to add extra powers and give them more powers to stop
Yeah,
people.
but you knew
right?
the police were going to take that back because as soon as one black person got pulled over,
Oh yeah,
that
there was
would
a
be
wrap.
a PR.
They don't want that smoke.
Yeah,
Exactly.
But
that would have been a
it's-
PR
again, like,
disaster.
it's not like they don't do that every day.
Fair.
I just want to point out the fact quickly that, on top of Dougie not doing a good job with the PR and the rollout and the planning and the communication, reports are on City TV and on CTV that the federal government did try to help. They said we'd offer up the Red Cross to help with the rollout of the vaccine. And what did our boy Dougie say? He said, first of all, I didn't ask for your help, and second of all, no thank you. So I don't understand.
But that's the rollout. How about the supply?
No,
Supply's there.
No, the supply is there. He said
freezers.
with the supply, Canada, Red Cross would come out and basically help manage the rollout and all the 8 hotspots that they have it and they could roll it out. And he said, I didn't ask you for no help. And
my
you
corners.
keep redempting. Yeah, all
No
my corners.
vaccines, all my corners. No dollar
All
beers.
my corners.
I want my corners.
My dollar beers, Sam.
O'Shea, what you got? What you got for us?
Yeah, I think Dougie messed up because he's trying to fish with a grenade. To be completely honest, like
Yo, are we gonna call him Dougie the entire show?
I told you guys on the chat last week that I'm calling him Dougie. I said that.
Yo, I did it first.
Mercy.
I'm just saying I did it first.
Tim's taking a shot.
Are you
Okay,
sure
Ray
about
J.
that?
Okay, Ray J.
Tim Brown.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Call the man Ray J?
Yo, don't put Ray
I've
J
got
on
that
him. Don't
video
put Ray J on
that is
him. All right, sorry,
way-
O'Shea. I cut you off.
Wait a minute.
Ray
Yeah.
J.
I cut you off.
Yo,
I cut you off.
O'Shea,
Let's get back to
O'Shea,
it. Let's
carry
get
on,
back to
carry-
it.
O'Shea.
But, yeah, no, I think he missed the mark when he could handle it, when he could just deal with what he's gonna do, right? Like he had the opportunity during Christmas where he put us under lockdown, and then I think it was
On
like
Boxing Day.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was Boxing Day.
Right.
What a
Boxing
duppy.
Day.
Sorry.
It's like stay away from your family, but we're gonna wait till after Christmas. Be responsible.
But like you just look at stuff like that, and you look at just what he did, and I think my biggest problem is with people, to be honest, with all of us, because 3 weeks ago, and mind you, I definitely feel that his rollout, everything that he's doing was just over aggressive, but I feel like he got to that point because everything he did was under aggressive, and we flamed him for not doing anything.
No-win situation.
And then when he did something drastic, we flamed him again. And I think that's just the ugliness of politics. And I think someone put it in the chat, like he's just never gonna win with what he does, but you would expect him to do the thing that would be the
But he was getting lots of
safest thing.
praise in the beginning of the pandemic.
He was
He
winning.
was.
Because he
was
shut
winning
things
for a
down.
long time.
He was winning. Yeah.
He was winning for a long
He was winning
time.
up until
Yeah,
this
like
week.
this
You
summer.
guys
He
gotta
was doing real
week.
good this summer.
Remember, Trudeau was getting lots of heat early on in the pandemic, and Doug Ford was looking like a champion, where everybody who didn't vote for Ford in the last election was like, you know what, we can actually recognize that he's doing a great job, and it's a tough position, and he's handling it well. And Trudeau was a deer in the headlights, lost. And
Now Trudeau's giving out money in the new
exactly
budget, fam.
right, like Trudeau.
My house.
That we're
Ford
all
looks-
good. That we're all.
Yo,
gonna
someone's
have to
giving
pay for
Dougie some
later.
money underneath the table for sure, bro.
Yeah,
Tim,
Amazon.
Tim, let me go
Canada
to Tim for a
Post,
minute. Tim,
Walmart.
what do you think? What's wrong with our premier?
Well,
That's the name of the topic. Is that the name of the topic? What's wrong with our premier?
yo, it's the verdict. We're passing
Yo,
the
we're
verdict.
passing the.
It's the other side of what the hell is
Dougie.
wrong with Kyrie. It's what the hell is wrong with Dougie.
Dougie.
No. But it's like,
my
see,
gosh.
this is the thing. It's like Doug's problem was that he didn't change his message as everything progressed. He maintained the same thing. And what has ended up happening as the problem itself has continued to intensify, he has remained constant. And it's gotten to the point with some level of understanding from rumors kicking around within the halls of Parliament that his party, his management itself is disconnected, that for the messaging of this entire thing, that it's broken.
You have
That
sources, Tim?
It's
Yeah,
like
who are your
I-
sources, Tim?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
like
it's like-
Say you claim sources.
I
We're
will
not
not. I will not
Fact check.
review.
We
I will
need
not
sauces.
We
Yeah,
gotta
I
protect
will. I will not
Haas's sources.
reveal my sources.
But you have it. But you have sources.
But he's got,
Yo, you
He's got
guys know.
sauces. He doesn't
Yeah.
have sources.
guys, allow him. Tim has
He's got
well-placed sources within
your-
the government.
Yes,
Your
They're running
exactly.
a deep
Can't be six
undercover.
buzz.
Allow him.
Can't
Yo.
be 6 buzz.
It's not. It's not 6 buzz. And so it's just like his difficulty is that he's lost the plot. And it's like as we talk about all the stuff that he hasn't done
On 420, man. Holy.
I know, right?
Blood.
420 blood.
On 420.
It's like as we talk about all of the stuff that he has done or hasn't done, it comes down to the fact that for what I've said before in our unreleased video for our conversation of it, he is the king of half measures. He is trying to keep everyone happy, and he's going to look around and find out that everyone's dead because he did nothing to save anyone.
You'd say.
Wow.
Wow.
Tim,
Wow.
Don't you put that evil on me?
Tell us how you really
that
feel,
on me.
Tim.
I just want to know
Don't
from
put that on
Tim
me,
who
Tim,
has
Bobby.
the pot. Who has the
that's
pot?
That last part.
no.
That last part was.
I already
Stay off.
You're talking scandalous right now. Andrew has some questions on 420 about
We got questions
Okay.
for James, but we'll have to
Just
that'll be
Andrew.
finished.
Andrew, why are you wearing
Go to
why are
the
you wearing your
baseline.
hoodie like Andrew, why are you wearing your hoodie like a snuggie right now?
Oh, I'm telling you,
Came
Hoodie
out
Andrew's out
gone
here.
this week,
Munchies,
Keeps me
bro.
warm, bro.
Yo.
Keeps me warm.
He got he got the
Andrew looks
munchies.
like he raps grime.
Yo, Jason, as our resident American, what is it? What is your take on this? Knowing that a year ago the states was a burning dumpster fire of COVID, and now it seems as though the tables have turned. I want to get your perspective on what you think with the rollout, with everything going on in Ontario right now.
Yeah, so I have to talk about our boy, Dougie, not so fresh right now. So what's going on is, I mean, if you think about it,
Do the
so
Dougie. Amazon had over 600 people at COVID. Canada Post had over 350 people, and we're not including women and children like a Bible parable. Anyway, to make a long story short, so you got all these people catching COVID. All right, all these people catching COVID. Right. And I mean, so one thing that I've learned as fellas is unlike in the States, like we manufacture vaccines. And from everything I'm getting here is the vaccines aren't being manufactured here. And that's just the problem. And then he's just not managing stuff. So that's the issue.
Yeah, I think what it boils down to is just he's really been trying to please everybody. He's not helping anybody. He's really trying to be a politician, and he's failing miserably. I think if this was any other situation where it was regular circumstances, regular issues that he's dealing with, maybe he would be flourishing because he's learned how to be a politician. But this is not regular politician stuff. This is a crisis that's at hand. And so when dealing with a crisis, it's not about trying to please everybody. It's about looking at what the crisis is and making the right decisions to be able to help fix the issues. And really, that's where he's failing. He's literally trying to please everybody like a normal politician would. And you would normally try to do that and try to please the right people in order to keep your position and those points up and all of that stuff. But what he needs to do is throw all of that out the door, look at the situation, and start making the hard decisions and stick to that. And when he makes those decisions, don't be worrying about what others think and what might please people. Just make the hard decisions and stick to it. That's literally what's been his issue this whole time. From the beginning, he tried to do it, and the decisions that he was making, people actually liked it. But as things progressed, those decisions haven't worked anymore because, as Tim said, they were half measures, and the half measures are band-aid solutions, and band-aid solutions never actually deal with the actual problem. And so Mr. Doug Ford needs to step back, figure out exactly what needs to be done. He's already behind in the ball game, and fix this thing.
A couple comments that are here in the chat, boys. Aurora 93s, ERRRORA 93. So many of his measures, I'm guessing that's Doug, as we've been calling him Dougie, are just pandemic theater. Easy to see and implement, but the effect seems to be minimal, like closing that that Manitoba border. Our homie Nelly Lashman, that's why they cut off the Rogers service yesterday. So many people couldn't call their offices to complain. Hashtag
It's 5G, yo. It's 5G. If that's 5G, fam.
5G is coming out.
Tinfoil. Get the tinfoil, baby.
My friend Robin from the Meeting House. Yes, look at the UK. They handle the variants better than we have. Brandon Wells. Are there provincial leaders that have got it right in other provinces? That's a great question. We've been spending a lot of time in Ontario learning this stuff, but there's still a lot of questions being asked about different provinces across Canada. And then Maddie Colburn, friend of the show, Dougie low-key watching right now.
Facts.
That's my dog's Dougie.
You know you love us.
Listen, but I will say this in the chat. There's a lot of people who are fans of calling him Dougie. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but listen, we're a conglomerate. We ride together, so that's what it is. Stefan, back to you.
Doing a low-key ISO moment.
So before we stop talking about this, I want to say a couple of things, and I've tweeted this out a couple of times. I've posted this on Facebook.
Conspiracies?
Allow me to get a little political. Allow me.
Oh shit!
Allow
You're
me-
wrong,
Third
yo.
eye.
Yeah, oh, shit.
I gotta make a tinfoil hat.
Allow
Bring it,
me to talk about our government for a moment here.
Oh Lord.
As I've said
Talk
multiple
10-10
times
right
before,
here.
when the conservative government gets in power in this province, we the people, we suffer. I'm going to take you back to 1995. Mike Harris and the Progressive Conservatives get elected, and they cancel a subway that's being built. Guess where? On Eglinton Avenue West. Guess what happens 15 years, 20 years later? They're digging up the same exact spot to build a new subway line, which we could have already had happening. Hold
They
on.
also sold the 407.
They sold the 407, which is now worth $30 billion. That could
For
be put back
$2
in. Exactly.
billion.
Right? Like, think about that. How stupid, because the private sector is going to be what helps the province get better. But hold on, because guess what happened? We re-elected the Conservatives a few years ago, and what did they do immediately when they got in power? They canceled sick days for workers.
Why are you anti-conservative?
Pardon?
Why are you anti-conservative?
You allow the man. Let him finish his topic.
Tell you right now. Let me tell you why. Because
you liberal spy.
Because here's why.
You liberal scum. You liberal scum, you.
Here's why. The Conservatives only care about rich people. They only care about the owners of businesses. They don't care about the people that Doug quotes are heroes and are essential workers. And people who come out here and they say that, you know, we're allies to black people and people of color. Well, a lot of the essential workers are people of color who are working in these essential factories. So if you want to be an ally, what are you giving up? You should be giving up your vote, and vote so that people who are going to work every day, which I see every friggin' morning at 7 o'clock, packed on buses heading out along Steeles Avenue West.
That's facts. That's
going
facts.
to work because they don't have sick days, and they are sick because our stupid government decided that no, 2 sick days to stay home and get better is way too much for business owners to spend, and we can't do that. And our premier decides that no, the federal government should be the ones to take care of that when they rolled it back. And guess what's really awesome is a report just came out that the progressive conservative government that is presently in charge is now thinking that, hey, maybe sick days are something that's needed in this province. I don't understand why we continue. Listen,
I mean,
we
it also
elected-
goes back to, you remember when he came in, he slashed schools, he slashed healthcare, like
everything.
He got sued.
You got to remember, Doug Ford canceled $1 billion in payments to Public Health Toronto, which their job which would have covered finding the next threat like H1N1 or SARS. And guess what happens 2 years later?
Wow.
This premier is not fit to run this province.
Sounds like Trump, man.
Say it with your chest,
Conservatives
fam.
Conservatives do not help us
Tell us how
out.
you really feel.
And conservatives,
he ain't leaving nothing.
Conservatives suck the life out of this province.
Set
Set us back.
Like a mosquito.
Rotted.
Here.
Yo, Adam,
Here.
do you have that organ
Suck.
set up?
Rotted.
My name is Stefan Watson, and I approve this message. This message is not fully endorsed by or promoted by.
I better go to the keys.
Doesn't matter who your premier is.
No, I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm not telling
You
you.
don't have to answer.
You're not
Doug.
telling us who to vote for.
Really?
You completely railed him.
Stefan, you're the worst.
I'm just looking at the numbers. I'm looking
you're
at
also the
facts,
best.
And I'm
Wait,
telling
listen, we
you,
fact check.
like,
We fact check everything. That's what we do. We fact check everything.
I'm
We always be
just telling you-
conjecture. There's no
I'm just-
QAnon on this show.
I'm just telling you what I've seen, what I've
this episode.
witnessed, and a lot of these things are. Tell me a lie I said.
No lies, no lies, no lies, no
Thank
lies, no
you.
lies, no lies.
There's never lies and conspiracies. There's just
Just twisted truth.
half truths that don't really
half-truths?
connect.
Oh, lad.
Stefan be like, and there was a report that came out, but it's a secret report, so only a few people have it.
Only I've seen it.
Tim and I have the same sources in the government. Tim and I have the same sources.
Yo, it's true.
Oh boy.
It's like we're connected
Rico.
to.
It's a Rico case.
Indictments coming on all your heads.
Guys, I just think that the latest thing for me was allowing the police to, at first, saying, "Hey, we're going to give the police more power to stop people," and we still struggle with the police accountability here in Canada. But what we saw today at 5:00 or 5:05, because they were running a little behind schedule. They were running on West Indian wedding time, apparently. Holy,
Hey.
Come on.
Yo,
Come on.
That's too early. 5 minutes.
No, that was only 40 minutes. My aunt took 3 hours to show up to her own wedding.
And she had to bring the food, right?
And then she complained. That why are you guys waiting for me? How come this isn't starting yet?
This starts so late.
Why are you mad at us? You're late. Why are you sitting around? So you guys should be ready for me.
So what we saw in Minneapolis today, the Derek Chauvin trial, the verdict was read today, and we had covered it a few weeks ago on the show, and he was guilty on all 3 counts. Guys, I know we talked about this a few weeks ago, and Jonesy was the one who was the most hopeful of what was going to come out of this trial. So what are we feeling after the moment? Give me your initial reaction when you heard the verdict or read the verdict. Maybe you saw it on social. What did you think? How did you feel?
Yes, I'll jump in. I was excited. I'm not gonna lie, but my excitement quickly faded. And why it faded was I was excited for something that should have happened. Like I felt disgusting after that, to be completely honest, that I was excited for the right thing to happen. Like that should happen. That should be the norm. And where I say I was disgusted is not at the fact that he's going to get jail time and he's going to get
We don't know that.
Or what
how much, yeah.
Yeah, we're not sure what the sentence
Oh,
is.
he's getting jail time.
But I wasn't disgusted at that fact. I was disgusted at where we are as a society and how that is something that we're celebrating. And I'm glad that we're pushing the needle forward. And as I'm disgusted, I'm also partially excited because I think Adam said this, shout outs to season 1 canon, but Adam said it, like, as long as we're pushing the needle forward, even just a little bit, it's moving. And I think that's where like my thoughts ended up in that sphere of, okay, I'm disappointed at where society is as a whole, but I'm excited that there is going to be, I don't even want to say justice, because I think justice starts before the problem, but there are repercussions for people, aka police officers, when they don't do their job right.
I was fortunate to hang out with Calvin. We did an IG live, kind of watching and talking about the verdict right before it happened, and both of us were really nervous. I think I can say that, Cal. Like, both of us were really nervous because we've been here before. It was only a few months ago. We forget that we thought maybe with Breonna Taylor they will get it right. This woman was in her bed in her home, and she was mercilessly killed. She was mercilessly shot and then left to die, essentially. And we thought, well, maybe with Breonna, and then it wasn't. And there's just kind of a drop of the heart there. Jonesy and Jason were the 3 oldest on the show. We remember Rodney King. We remember being there and videotape, and it happened to be caught on videotape. And we were there when a jury of their peers said all 4 of these men who beat him within an inch of his life were found innocent. and then the repercussions therein of 3 days of riots and murders and looting that took place in the poorest areas of Los Angeles. And so there's a lot of wounds there. There's a lot of PTSD that's there. And so when the verdict was read and you hear the words guilty 3 times, I should have been jumping up and down, but I wasn't. And the more I sat on it, my wife and I went for a walk. The more I sat on it, the more upset I got. And the reason why I got upset is because Philando Castile was on Facebook Live when he was murdered, and the cop was acquitted. Eric Garner was on video being choked by 4 police officers and was acquitted. These things have happened, and it's just like, this is great that this isn't a win. It's not a win. And, I know there's many who felt like I'm going to post something on social media and the word guilty, and I get that. But like, this has been happening for way too long. And if you were reading Twitter today, the reason why this got to as far as it is because a young teenage Black girl decided to film the entire thing the entire time. If she doesn't film this is we don't know anything. It's just another case that goes away quietly. But this young woman, as the cops are yelling at her, she films this whole thing, as you can see on the background of Calvin's video, Calvin's square there, 8 minutes and 46 seconds. She films the entire thing. That allows this moment to kind of open up. And my feelings even now are mixed. I'm happy for his family. There are likely, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a civil suit. There's still 3 other police officers who have to go under trial for voluntarily watching this thing happen. But we're just over almost a year in, and last week we were talking on our pre-show recording, we were talking about a young man 13 killed in Chicago. A man in Virginia pulled out of his car and pepper sprayed simply for driving. These things aren't going away, and so we just got to keep that same energy. Those of us who were part of the fight and stuff last summer, I hope that you don't kind of say, "Hey, this is great, we did it," and then decide to jump off the train. But many of us, we've been walking this fight for a long period of time, and this is to quote to be like Adam and quote a movie. This is the never-ending story. This isn't changing none, and so we got to be willing to be activists by being active all the time. So, Stefan, man, I don't know. I'm not happy, but I'm not sad. I'm just ugh.
It's hard to be on either side. For me anyway, I like a lot of people, as before the judge opened his mouth, it felt like it was a bit of slow motion for me anyway, where I was just like, I don't know how this is going to go, and I'm nervous because if it goes not, if he's not found guilty, Minneapolis is going to burn. But if he's found guilty, he's guilty, but like, how do you can't really celebrate that. I just don't know if that's something that you want to celebrate. It's a dirty celebration. I don't know, man. Bart, what do you think?
Yeah, man, like, it's rough. It's definitely bittersweet. I remember, Chase, you talking about the 16-year-old girl that or was she 16? No, she was older. She was a bit older than that. But she had to first hide away her niece, her 9-year-old niece, in a convenience store to get that footage, to hide her from the horror. And then in the reports, they also talk about the gentleman who told his manager that he thinks he got a fake $20 bill, and the guilt, how much guilt. I'm just talking about the whole story, how deep this goes, the amount of people that have been affected. It's a tragedy, and the fact that they were planning on boarding up the walls, the fact that they were preparing for the worst, tells you the status of how bad the race relations are, because there was a chance, not a small chance, there was a large chance that this could have gone sideways and gone in a different direction. So I'm happy that there is some type of resolve, but man, there's so much more work still left to be done. So we got this small, tiny little victory, and I hate calling it a victory because it's something that should be a right. It's something that should be belonging to us. It's something that everybody who feels that they are being persecuted, literally persecuted, chased, hunted down, hunted like animals, to feel like for me to even get the justice that I deserve, that I'm entitled to, seems to be like the exception, not the rule. It seems to be like something that happens by chance. It seems to be because all these things come together at the right time that make it kind of work in my favor. And without the video evidence, without the testimony, without all these things, it is so easy to see how this could have gone a different way. So I'm not gonna take away any more time, but we got work to do. I'm happy that we broke through the door in this regard, because police officers historically, especially in America, but also in Canada here too, kind of get out of
jail free card.
Yeah, where they're protected more than people, and this kind of is the first wave where we kind of see you are also subject to the law that you are charged to enforce. So I don't know. I was very angry. I was like how we were talking about, last week about when you listen to like DMX and stuff like that, you feel like amped and angry. You don't know how to. That's kind of how I was feeling. I was feeling like, damn right, yeah. But at the same time, like, yo, I could choke somebody out right now. Like I was just all over the spectrum, and I'm happy that I was able to like take some time and cool off, because it does get to you.
Guys, just some comments from the chat. Zach Baker says, going into it, I would not have put money on that verdict, and that makes me sad. Nellie Latchman watched along with Chris and Cal. Shout out on IG Live. My blood pressure was not okay even for a good 2 hours afterward. Maddie Colburn, what up? The family said it right. We aren't celebrating a man going to jail. We're celebrating the first move in the right direction. Kamoy Whitney, what's up? A man was charged guilty for murdering another man. It's the fact that we're excited over that. Imagine that being so foreign to us. And Michael Millars, I'm glad justice was served, but it sucks that it took until this point that so many lives had to be lost to get here. It's a step in the right direction for sure, though. Yep.
Yeah, man, Chris, it was dope to be on that live with you. Particularly the fact that we had each other through it. We started off pretty well, even keel, and then you just, as time continued to progress, I could sense that anxiety within you, Saud, and me. And then just as they were reading it out, I literally was holding my breath, like, oh my goodness, is the next one going to be not guilty? Just expecting it. And then even as the jurors were like giving testimony that like this indeed is my testimony, I kind of was expecting them to be like, kidding, right? And just like totally blow it up. Man, it was a weird couple hours after that, though, like just having to finish up at work. I made the comment on the live there, like I still had to drive home. And when you think about what had happened with this person who's supposed to be a protector of people, a policer, but also a protector of people, and how he did not protect this man and he murdered this man, even though there seemed to be justice there. It's a small victory. It is a sort of justice. It's not full, and it's definitely not complete. And then on the heels of the announcement, as much as there was retraction and redaction of what our own government in our country had to say of how police should behave and interact with the public, I work right down the street from an OPP station, and I literally could only think about, don't mess up on your drive home. Don't full stops, no rolling stops. Don't wait to get to the line. Constantly checking my blind spots, constantly checking my mirrors, like you're supposed to. I didn't put two hands at like 10 and 2 or whatever you're supposed to do, but there was a certain element within me that, and Chris, you shared a tweet where there are a lot of upset police officers. And the anxiety as a young black man, like regardless of this, yes, it's a small move forward, but my senses were heightened. I was incredibly anxious and nervous. And then I got home to have a conversation with my dad, and I could see it on him. And I think just there's a collective feeling of, yes, exhale, but there's still PTSD. There is still danger outside of the comfort of my own home. Right. And don't hit me with the, like, it's not the same in Canada as it's not as the US. None of that matters in this moment. It's great. We're moving the needle forward. We're hopeful for reform. I loved watching Ms. Harris and Mr. Biden do what they had to do to talk their talk. Real important. Loved what that sounded like, but I couldn't help but imagine and cringe at what would this have sounded like 6 months ago with somebody else in charge. We know who that person is. And I just wonder, when will we really see change? And much like you guys, I don't want to settle for this, but important day. Been praying for you guys, and I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful, and I'm nervous.
So for me, I actually never saw the verdict live. My first thought about it was I wasn't going to watch it because honestly, I expected to hear something negative as a verdict, and so I never even watched it. So I remember, or I can recall then when I found out that he was the verdict came in all three accounts guilty. It was just interesting, the emotions that kind of came through. It was like, the first emotion was I had to double check, and because I saw it on social media, I had to double check and look at it again to make sure, because I just kind of thought it would never be the case. And then even after I saw it, I even went to my wife. She was in a different room, and I was just like, "Did you hear that that he was found guilty?" And she's like, "Yeah, I did." And even that, I was like expecting her to tell me, "No, what are you talking about?" Like, that's how surreal it was for me to hear that he was actually found guilty. As you guys know, when we had the show last time, I was one of the most pessimistic individuals because I was a kid. I'm not as old as Jonesy and Chase and
I ain't ancient, guys. I ain't ancient. Whoa.
I do remember that. I
Relax.
remember that.
We got hoodie Andrew right now.
60th birthday, Andrew.
We have hoodie Andrew right now.
Happy
Watch what you
60th
say, bro.
birthday,
Watch what you
Andrew.
say.
Guys, talk louder.
Let the man
Guys, everybody go into the non-Andrew chat. Everyone go into the non-Andrew chat right now.
Turn your gain up for Andrew. Turn your gain up for Andrew.
But I
Yeah,
do
yeah.
remember,
What are you guys saying? What?
I do remember
Saying
the Rodney King.
You qualified for the test or your vaccine 2 months ago.
Wrong.
Oh
my
Let
Respond
Kareem
to this.
speak.
Can I
Let
finish,
Kareem
guys?
speak.
But I set that up, so it's all good. But no, I actually do remember as a kid when that came out and seeing my parents totally like cheesed and distraught, like that went down, and couldn't believe that went down. And for me, I just thought that was going to be the same thing. For the main reason being, what you said, Cal. Like, I actually do think that police officers in the force are going to recognize that this is going to set a new precedent for police officers moving forward. Like, if you do something wrong, you can be, you could be charged. And what I would say to that, and it's the last thing I'm going to say about it, is what we now need to do to further move this needle is we need to leverage this. We can't let just this be a win for right now. Moving forward, we need to make it known that this precedent has been set, and we need to leverage this as much as possible as a people. We cannot let just this be just something where we have this win for right now, but we need to continue to build from this and moving forward, do the same type of things that happened to lead up to this. There was a lot that had to take place for this to happen. I do agree that what's his name, Trump had to not become president, and all the protests and all of that is the main reason why we were able to get this type of verdict. But moving forward, we have to still be loud. We still have to make our voice known,
Big facts.
and heard in order to continue to build off of what took place today.
So Jamar Tisby, he tweeted this: "Look at all the work it takes. Video, evidence, eyewitness testimony, historic uprisings just to get a single conviction. Look at all the work it takes just to get folks to believe us. And I know from that conversation that we had amongst each other, I was probably like a tad more pessimistic than Reem, but then we may have been on equal footing. The one thing that I walked away with when it came up, because I was working and I was unable to watch it, was okay, but what about when it happens again? And this is like the dark doom and gloom side of things. Is this the one-off where we have Barack Obama for 2 terms only to get Donald Trump? And so it's one of those things where it's like, yes, this is wonderful. Justice, as we would like to say, has been served. But it's the one takeaway I have is the rest of America gonna look at it and go, it's like, we gave you Derek Chauvin. It's like, what else do you want?
Yeah.
What else do you need?
Come on.
No.
And it's one of those things that it's like, as I think about it, it's like I think of a state like Georgia, which has only made it more difficult,
right,
for people of color to be able to vote. And it's one of those things that, what are we going to see out of the southern states? The states that, if they had their way, things would be a lot more oppressive than they are right now. So it's something that I walk away from this with a glimmer of hope, but also at the exact same time, I am sitting there going, it's like, show me. And it's also one of those things that for us here in Canada, that we aren't letting up when all else is said and done. And I know that's it for me.
Yeah, like, I had a little bit of hope that he would be found guilty, because one of the things at the very beginning, Al Sharpton said it, and it actually stirred me up a little bit. He said, he said, Chauvin is in court, but America's on trial. And when he said that kind of hit me, because I'm like, America's really on trial here. That everybody is watching America right now.
Bro, they've been on trial for the last like 10 years.
Yeah, they've been on trials for the last 400 years. But yes.
This one was looking a lot more different.
Ever since Afghanistan, they've been on trial.
Yes, they have. But they look a lot different in this than they have in any other situation before. And so I had a little bit more hope that he was going to be found guilty. But when I heard that verdict, a sadness actually came over me. For 2 reasons. Number one, because George Floyd is still dead. And, no one's going to bring him back for his family. But number 2, I also thought of Chauvin, and I thought, man, people are taught to hate. And if people are taught to hate, who taught you to hate so much to be willing to kill somebody?
Right.
And so, this guy got killed because of somebody else's hate. And because of somebody else's hate, this guy now, because of the decisions he made, is going to go to jail. And who knows if he'll ever make it in jail. Right. And, because there's going to be so many people, because he's had complaints and shootings before. This is not his first time. But the other thing that caught me as well was this case is bigger than people thought it was, because if you guys remember, there was a guy in 2019 by the name of Mohammed Noor, and he was a black officer in Minnesota that shot a white blonde Australian lady, and he got charged and sentenced to 12 years in prison.
Right.
And so now you got this case in the same place, and you're wondering, okay, is this going to take place? Is he going to win or is he going to lose? Because if he gets out and this other guy got in, all hell is going to break loose. But I'm glad that this is taking place. I'm glad that things are happening. But like someone said even today, today he was found guilty. Now we got to move on to Dante Wright.
Right.
We can't even worry about today, really. It's very short-lived, because now we got to get justice for Dante Wright. and the next person after that, and the next person after that. So, yeah, it's good that he got, he's sentenced, and he's not sentenced but charged, and he's found guilty and all that other stuff. But there's still lots more work to do.
Yeah, I'm not convinced, to be honest. I don't know if you can call me a pessimist, but to me, when I look at it, I'm thinking like, how could you not, in this climate, in this at this time, with these people, with the historic events that are happening, how could you not convict Derek Chauvin? And yeah, it's actually a comment during the trial that said it's not at him as a police officer that's on trial, but that it's Derek Chauvin and what he did. And I think that this harps back to our conversation that we have about police accountability, is that we have a system that is flawed, and the reason why I'm not convinced is because the prosecution failed to mention the flaws in the system and pinned everything on the man of George Floyd. And what that does is that allows you now to have these rogue bad apples without fixing the actual problem, which is the system that is going on. And so until we start seeing people who have been wrongfully convicted and accused and sentenced to lots of time in prison being vindicated, until we see this kind of justice in low profile cases, until we start seeing the deprivatization of, like I'm talking about, like the canceling of contracts and the deprivatization of prisons and all these things happening in a real scale. I know that there's been mention of things and there have been talks and all that kind of stuff, but until we start seeing that, I'm still not convinced that that the needle is really moving as far forward. And this is I was with my family when we saw the verdict go down, and I know my mom was like, yes, like almost like cheering for a sports game and stuff. And I don't know, I kind of just walked out of the room because I'm still not there yet. It just feels like, hey, we can pin it on this guy, Derek Chauvin, and we can pin it on everyone else that gets the same kind of publicity and pushback. And but everything else, like there's hundreds of people who are going to prison every year. Yeah, I'm not convinced.
And not only going to prison, not to cut you off there, Jason, before you go, but not only going to prison, but then who gets stuck in the probation system.
Yeah.
And who are locked into this maze of then having to literally live for the government and have every step, like they never get to become a real person. So if they're going to prison, they never even come out when they're out, but they're still a part of that system forever. And the root of the tree is so grossly poisoned.
Yeah.
That if we get excited about this one thing and we get our eye off the fact that there needs to be prison reform and probation reform and education reform and training reform for police officers and hiring reform, if we get our eyes off of that, that's why I said, like, this isn't a victory. I just read a tweet here. There's no victory in the verdict.
Did you hear what you just said, Chase? Like, all of that needs to be taken care of for us to even semi be on equal ground. That's how messed up this system is. The system is deeply, 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 deeply flawed. But I'm gonna be a little bit more optimistic, because if it's now on us to kind of build with this, it's kind of what we do with this, is like what I already said. We could leverage this. There's something now that we have that we could leverage.
But like, I think.
Yeah. So. No, it was cool. So I would, when I heard everything and how everything went down, I was just thinking about how a number of years ago, me and one of my friends were out. Actually, we just came home from Bible study, and I was dropping him off, and me and him were just chatting for a couple minutes, and then the next thing we knew, we saw lights flashing inside of our car, and then after that happened, my friend went to, say, hey, he went to pull for his Bible. And then the next thing we knew, they almost had their guns pointed out at us. And so it just kind of made me think about just that experience and just some other experiences with family members and friends and other other African Americans who have, being from the States and being in these type of situations. And, I thought back of hearing, things like Eric Gardner, Antoine Rose, and Dante Wright, and just thinking like, me and many other people could have been in George Floyd's, in that same situation. And so what many people that I've seen, many of my friends or whatever on Facebook or Instagram, people were happy and excited because for one time we finally won something. Obviously, and you guys brought out some brilliant points about issues with the system, issues with policing, issues with training, and all that is true and relevant. But from one point in time, people like Emmett Till and others who have been, other African Americans who dealt with this for so long, we all knew from the back of our mind, if you see a police car, you got to watch, I mean, even now I tell my wife, police make me nervous. It doesn't matter if I'm in the US or in Canada. So, I mean, it was a good thing. And then even hearing what the president was saying, how the president was saying, okay, this was murder. I'm shocked. I was shocked to hear that. And then obviously hearing what the vice president had to say. So for the first time, I think we're actually turning the corner. So unfortunately, there's other cases of, of African Americans who have recently been shot or lynched or murdered, whatever you want to call, by police. So I'm eager to see what happens in the future going forward. Like, are these officers going to be held accountable for their actions? So I'm praying and hopefully that's going to be the change, that this is just not a one-off, like many of us are hoping that that's not the case.
Yeah, no, like I said earlier, I had this little nervousness before the verdict, but I think that people are starting to see that there is an issue with a lot of the background stuff in the police department. I want to read a quote from the founder of the Christian Broadcasting Network, noted police supporter and conservative Pat Robertson, who suggested that they need to recruit a smarter workforce. He says this: we need police, we need them, and we need to honor them, and I'm all for it. But at the same time, we cannot have a bunch of clowns running around who are underpaid and who really are not the best and the brightest. And I think that I can't believe I'm agreeing with Pat Robertson in 2021. I think he's right. There needs to be a better educated people in there. They need to be trained better. And this is a small step. I don't even think this is a step, to be honest with you. I think this is a lifting of the leg to step in the right direction of police accountability and hopefully a spark in police reform. But I just don't know. I just don't know what takes place. And I want to read to you the name of somebody who, Ma'Khia Bryant, 15-year-old girl, was killed in Ohio today, a few minutes before the Derek Chauvin verdict was read. So, the ink was barely dry on the signature of the verdict slips, of the juror slips, before this happened. Chase, what we got in the comments?
We got Candace Mayer says this, even in Florida, and just kind of we're talking a little bit about what's going on in the States. And Tim mentioned in Atlanta or even in Florida, where as of Monday, gatherings of more than 3 people can be labeled as a riot to deter people from protesting. And there are many states right now who are creating laws where people can hit others with their cars if they're protesting and not be charged for it, because the rioters are the ones, or the protesters are the ones. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you can hit somebody with their car and somehow you're able to get away with it. Erica. Oh, look at this. O'Shea and Ning. Somehow O'Shea is both on the show and also commenting on the show as well.
Mm-hmm. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, sweetheart. That's play. Seems like 1,000 piece puzzle with no box cover to outline the big picture. Today feels like that moment you find a piece that connects the puzzle, but you still have 998 other pieces to go. And then in conversations about reform, Blessing says this: those profiting from the established system are not going to easily let that be torn down. It's going to be a long and drawn out fight. And then once again, we go back to Maddie Colburn. Maddie Colburn, friend of the show. It's just sad when we need to leverage consequences for people who broke the law. It's what Calvin said. He was supposed to protect and he killed. Hurt by a system that people will hope do its job. And then Krista Marie Crooks, homie. And this is sort of how it feels like. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Yo, you see what?
Go ahead. Go down.
I was gonna say, you see what Nellie Latchman put? The Venn diagram of people who've profited off generational wealth, generational oppression, and racist ideals are the same circle.
It's not a scam, it's a scheme, yo.
It's not a scam, it's
not a scheme. It's
Judge
a
Tycho taught me
to
that.
all
Gentlemen.
Brampton peoples. What up, Brampton?
Oh, okay.
Big up Brampton. Yo.
All right, we're not calling out our ends. We're not calling out our ends. We're not calling out our ends.
Free L6B. Free L6B.
Oh yeah, yo,
You need to
shout
call
out.
them to stay home.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Brampton be stay in your yard, man.
Quick thing before we close
On
up.
the yard.
Gentlemen, before we leave, I want to reiterate on, and this is maybe we're going to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about this in another show. Remind you guys that the jury was made up of 7 women, 5 men. 6 of the jurors were white, 4 were black, and 2 were identified as multiracial. We don't have to answer this tonight, but maybe just think about this. How much did their races play a part in their decisions? Second, I was listening to a podcast a couple of days ago. Sorry, I can't get the name right now. I got to go back and listen to it again. But on the podcast, someone had said to one of the hosts that we're not happy with the situation, meaning the whole thing with Chauvin, but we in Minneapolis are going to get this right. And that when I heard that, that really stuck out in my head, because there are people who knew the gravity of what was going to come. And like I said, history has and had its eyes on this whole entire trial. And the people and the jurors in Minneapolis. And so, man, I'm glad they got it right.
Well played, Stefan, for sliding in that Hamilton reference and then not laughing while doing it. Well done. Also, Kristen Marie says this to us: "Get out of here. I'm vaccinated." Brampton, stand up. So what it is?
But is the rest of Brampton vaccinated?
Wait, hold on. Adam, this is for you, Adam. Shout outs. Hey. Right now, pressing enter. Right now, we have a playlist that was put together by a couple of us in the House of Common based on our feelings of today. We had to kind of make a couple of edits here and there to make sure that it's palpable for different sorts of ears. But if you're feeling a ways, maybe you're feeling angry, maybe you're feeling melancholy, maybe you're feeling amped about all this stuff, maybe you simply need something just to walk to or run to kind of keep this thing moving, you can click on that link that's in the chat. For those of you who are watching this later on, we'll make sure to put it in the bio. If you are listening to this on podcast, we will put it in our bio as well in the podcast. You can listen to that as well, so you can have a better idea of what we listen to when we are feeling a ways, because it has really been a tough day for you and a tough day for us, but thankfully we get to have these tough days together. For all of you who have watched, do us a favor. Next week, bring 2 friends. You know what? No, bring 3 friends. Let's triple these numbers up. We have something really good going on here, and there should be more and more people watching this and hanging out with us. So bring a friend, bring 2, bring 3, bring all that sort of stuff. On behalf of the gentlemen, it has been fun. It's getting late. It is time for bed. This has been